4th of July celebration is a time for festivities throughout our entire nation. Today on Austin Faith Dialogue, we'll look at how we celebrate the 4th of July in the capital city of Texas.
This is Austin Faith Dialogue, a public affairs program discussing the important crossroad of religion in life, produced by Austin Metropolitan Ministries in cooperation with KTBC TV. Austin Faith Dialogue highlights the interaction of the religious community with the social and cultural issues throughout our area. Now, today's edition of Austin Faith Dialogue.
Welcome to Austin Faith Dialogue. A former president of the United States said that the 4th of July celebration is a time for devotion to God from one end of the continent to the other, and for pomp and parade, and for bands, and for music, and for sports and games. Here in Austin, we're uniquely privileged to have a lot of ways that we can celebrate the 4th of July. One of the ways is with the Austin Symphony Orchestra, and Jane Sibley, who is president of the Austin Symphony Orchestra, is with us on Austin Faith Dialogue today to talk with us about how we celebrate the 4th of July in Austin. Jane, welcome to Austin Faith Dialogue.
Thank you. It is a very, very important event. It's important to the symphony, to the community. It is a time when I do believe that patriotic nerve is deeply touched.
We were listening to the music at the top of the program, and you and I both said that we're inspired by that type of music. And I know, as being a longtime resident of Austin, that you must feel that way about the concert that the symphony offers to the community.
I think it's one of the nicest things we do. Of course, you know, it's completely free. Families come, they bring a watermelon, they bring a picnic basket with fried chicken, or if you leave it at home, you can get concessions there, which is another nice thing. But the musicians are set up at the edge of the lake. The sound goes back towards Palmer Auditorium, so that really thousands of people can hear the Austin Symphony. Of course, it's amplified too.
Sure.
And literally, the shores of Lake Austin are completely filled with people. I would say anywhere from 60 to 70,000 people.
And I think, like you say, that the amplification of the music goes all around. And people are on the north side of the lake, and they're on the south side of the lake, and they're on the hillside there by Palmer Auditorium.
They're on the bridges.
That's right.
They're in the buildings.
Right. And on the 4th of July, it seems a time to touch that chord of patriotism.
Yes, we, and I think we do. Of course, we've had marvelous composers in our history of the United States, and we touch on them, and we even bring in Tchaikovsky. What would we do without the cannons, you know?
Right. Now, you've been with the Austin Symphony Orchestra since
A long time.
1971, is that right?
Something like that.
You have been president of the board since then.
Yes, I stepped in, and I was on the board prior to that, but I didn't have much responsibility. And there's a big difference.
Tell us a little bit of the history of the Austin Symphony.
It's a remarkable thing that has existed since 1911. And Carl Wadane brought one of the original programs down to the Symphony office at Symphony Square right after we'd completed the buildings there. And he said he'd kept this for many, many years, and he thought we should have it and hang it on the wall, and there it is.
Carl Wadane was indeed one of the patriarchs of the Austin community, and also of the Lutheran tradition within the Austin community. Talk about the evolution, Jane, of the symphony. Now, in 1911, it was a small group, of course, but what has happened through the years that you consider to be milestones of the
We
symphony?
laughingly say that Carl Wadane was the cello section. But nevertheless, he was a fine musician, and there were fine musicians in Austin. I attribute that to their heritage, the Swedish heritage, the German heritage, and many people who were born in Austin and reared here did go back to Europe for schooling in music. And they returned, and they have always contributed to the community. And along in the 30s, the symphony did organize as a professional unit, which means that they all became union members. And we've had some very fine musicians and fine conductors.
Jane, prior to that time then, I understand they were all volunteers.
They were volunteers.
And they got together to play because they loved music and enjoyed music.
And as I said, they were good. They were trained.
And then in the 30s, they became unionized and became professionals. And then what about full-time director type person?
Oh, we have had, well, there's been, I believe, since the 30s, there's been a full-time musical director.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, we have Soon Kwok, and he has been with us about 12 years. I think we've been doing the 4th of July concert since the early 70s.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember exactly the first one, but it came about prior to the bicentennial of the
But I remember, and we were talking about this before we came on the air, that I remember when we were going to celebrate the bicentennial here in Austin. And you remember the rain that came that day?
It rained.
The heavens opened, and I thought we had to build our ark, but it was all rained out at that time, and we were going to get down on the lake, and we were all going to worship together. Instead, we ended up coming together at First Baptist.
Well, there isn't anything we can do about the rain. Now, you can go to First Baptist, but we don't have a First Baptist that'll hold 60,000 people.
Exactly.
So in case of rain, people just have to wait until next year. And I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. One day, let's not have rain.
I think the real joy for the Austin community is to gather together and feel that sense of not only the music, and it starts at 8:30 in the evening, is that correct?
The music begins at 8:30, but people like to come around 6:30, have their picnic, visit with their friends, bring their pets, romp with the children and the dogs. And, of course, the fireworks begin at 9:30, and that is spectacular.
Mm-hmm. Now, the concert is free to the public, but it's not free to the symphony, isn't that right,
No, it's
Jane?
not free to the symphony. It's a big part of our budget. It's over $59,000.
Mm-hmm.
But that is adequate money for the musicians, for the traffic control, and we try to make certain that there are enough policemen to see that you get home safely, and that it doesn't take you too long, and there are no traffic snarls at least. And if you're patient, it works very well. And we had to put up the Jiffy Johns, and there's a lot to be done, and it's expensive to do anything outdoors.
Take care of all the necessities.
And we have marvelous sponsors. We have Nations Bank. They have been doing this a number of years. And HEB. We have the City of Austin to some extent. Coca-Cola comes, and they're one of our sponsors. And, of course, the Musicians Performance Trust Fund, which is a trust fund that is made up by funds from the musicians themselves. That's very generous.
I'm going to ask you to give us an insight what it's like to be on that board. When you all go over your budget and you look at this and you say, aha, almost $60,000 goes to this free concert, you must sense that there is a spiritual benefit that is given to the community by having this event.
There is no doubt about that. And as I said, it's one of the highlights of our season, one of the highlights of our budget. I shouldn't say our season because we do have a concert season, and I'm misusing my term there. But the purpose of the symphony is really to provide the concert season. The second purpose, and it's very close to the first one, is to educate the young children into a love of classical music.
On the second part of the program today, we're going to talk with one of your staff people about that children's series, but tell us a little bit about the season. Now, we've talked about the concert on the 4th of July, and we want everybody watching Austin Faith Dialogue to come to the concert, but we're also wondering about what is the season like? What will you have this year in 93, 94?
I think it's always wonderful. We open with a fantastically young musician, a true prodigy. You know, there are a lot of prodigies around, but a true prodigy is rare. And this is Colin Johnson. He's performed with the New York Philharmonic. He will be 15 when he plays with us.
Amazing.
So it should inspire a lot of youngsters here in the community.
If people want to become a part of the Austin Symphony, if they'd like to become members of the Austin Symphony, Jane, how do they go about doing that?
Well, they can always call the office and say they want a subscription.
Okay.
That's the easiest way. That's where you get the pleasure.
And when you say
the concert.
Yeah, that's right. And when you say I want to be a member, I want to have a subscription to the season, what does that cost?
It varies. It depends upon where you sit, as in most things. But we try to keep the price as reasonable as we can, so that I believe they're even $2 tickets. I wouldn't recommend them over a $20 seat, but they are there.
Right.
And there are times in one's life when a $2 seat is just as good as a $20 seat. And we have 8 concerts, and we do keep it reasonable because we go to our sponsors, we go to our individuals and ask them to make a contribution, a tax-deductible contribution. And that gives us a cushion from which to work.
For a person like yourself who volunteers so much time and energy, you have a vision of the symphony, and certainly it takes shape and form in that 4th of July concert, but it's throughout the entire year. What do you think, since 1911, then 1930 and going on, what has the symphony given to the city of Austin?
Well, one thing, we have remained here, and that is important. So many, many symphonies across our nation are absolutely folding. They're saying we cannot make it financially, which means that somewhere they have lost contact with the community. And I think that we are here. I think the community will always have the Austin Symphony here. I think it will support it. And that is an essential thing. There's no way to charge what it would cost. It would be outrageous. And there are no government grants around to keep up a community organization like ours. It just depends upon the citizens and what they want their children to have and what they want their young people to grow into. Because you know that classical music touches a part of your senses or your inner brain or your inner spirit that is very nice.
I like what you said about serving the community, staying in contact with the community. It seems to me that's really essential if any of these organizations, but something like the Symphony is going to remain a part of the community.
Yes,
what are some of the things in Austin, since we have such a wonderful symphony, what are some of the things we have to watch out for if, so we don't fall into that trap that some of the other places have?
One is merely saying, well, it'll always be here. You know, that can be a trap in itself. But it's something you have to work at.
Right. And solicit support from people.
Solicit.
And we're hoping
the interest. I think we have an interesting program. That's what we try to do to maintain interest in the community. We have the Lebec sisters, who are two of the cutest French girls you've ever seen. When they walk out on the stage, immediately you know they can play the piano well. They play 2 pianos very, very well. And we have, what is this? Gustavo Romero. He has been here on 2 occasions, and he is very exciting.
And he'll be coming back this next season?
He'll be coming back. He's a young man who was reared in San Diego. And we have, of all things, reportedly the world's finest clarinetist. And his name is Stoltzman, and he is going to play a Mozart clarinet concerto, which I think is pretty rare.
Now, if someone has never attended the Austin Symphony Orchestra, has never been there, how do they go about doing that? Where do they go?
Well, first they come early, and then they can hear Ida Kwok, the conductor's wife, give them a little summary of what to expect on the program.
Okay, how early is early?
That helps. At least an hour. I would say, I believe she starts around 7 to 7:30. And this is on the mezzanine, and you don't have to make any kind of reservation or plan. Ida will be there, and she will give you some of the inside of what to expect, or something interesting about the composer, or even the guest artist who might be performing.
Interesting. Preparing them for the concert that evening.
I think you can relax, and I think we should relax when we attend the symphony.
It's not a stuffy experience then, is that right?
We should enjoy it. That's what it's for.
Jane, I've enjoyed meeting you.
Thank
and
you.
I really appreciate what you do for all of us in the Austin community, and we know that you have to run on to another engagement, but are you going to be at the concert? We hope you'll be there.
I shall be there.
All right, we'll be there and celebrate the 4th of July.
You will be too.
I will be there with my
Good.
family. Thanks for being on
Fine.
Austin Faith Dialogue. Don't you leave us. We'll be coming back with a staff person from the Austin Symphony. Stay with us on Austin Faith Dialogue.
Serving Austin means serving you. That has always been the primary goal of Austin Metropolitan Ministries. We are religion in action through the work of these organizations. Each plays a key role in making the capital city a better place to live, but we can't do it alone. Do you have some spare time, talents, or any resources that you can share? If you do, please call AMM at 472-7627, because serving Austin means serving you.
welcome back to Austin Faith Dialogue. I hope that music is stirring you because we're talking about the Austin Symphony Orchestra, and Nan Schwetman is here with us, and she's a staff person with the Symphony Orchestra here in Austin. We're really grateful that you're here, Nan, and we're celebrating the 4th of July and the role that the Symphony plays in making Austin a wonderful place. It's a great place to live, but the Symphony helps make it even a better place to live.
It's truly a wonderful place, and I think the Symphony it does some very impressive things for the community outside of our normal concert schedule.
The first part of the program, we had the president of the board, and Jane told us a lot of things about the Symphony Orchestra. Now we want you to tell us a little bit more about the programming, but we want to really focus on inviting people to come to the concert, the free concert on the 4th of July, because that's a tradition here in Austin. Now you do many other things, though, with the Symphony Orchestra, and Nan, what is your responsibility?
Well, I'm responsible for public relations, making the community aware of all the wonderful things that the Symphony does.
Great. You're the right person to have on this program.
It's a great job. It's a wonderful job.
Now tell us about some of the things. I know that the children who are in the daycare program at our summer program at Gethsemane, that they've been attending Symphony Square. Tell us about the children's program at Symphony Square.
Well, every Wednesday, the Symphony has a special day for children, a morning for children. And we literally fill up the Symphony Square amphitheater with music, children, mimes, fools, jugglers, and we really have a marvelous, marvelous program. I think you're going to be seeing some slides here that show some of the children learning about musical instruments. We call this our instrument petting zoo, and it's the first introduction for many children to various kinds of musical instruments. Here's some of our younger visitors enjoying balloons, watching entertainment on the stage, and that gives you some sense of how many attend this event.
There are lots of children there.
We frequently pretty much fill up the place.
When I must confess that we were late in arriving, and I was late. My daughter was upset about that, but we were late. But they were standing outside looking in.
That's right. Oh, here's someone learning to play the trombone.
76 trombones. That's
He's
great.
Really working on that.
Well, that's the type of thing that we want people in the Austin community to know that's happening. Now, how do they become involved in the summer program? How does that all happen?
All they have to do is show up on Wednesday, and it's a good idea to show up early because occasionally we have an overflow. But it begins at 9:30 every Wednesday morning, and they can stroll around and look at the musical instruments, get balloons, find a seat in the amphitheater, enjoy wonderful entertainers.
Tell us about Symphony Square, where it is, how it came into being, and I think that's an interesting history.
Symphony Square is one of the few historical spots actually owned by a symphony in the United States. In fact, I think we're unique in the way we use Symphony Square. It's where the symphony offices are housed. All of the buildings are historical landmarks. The one that our offices are in were that one is the home of one of the first black legislators in the Texas legislature right after Reconstruction. He built the home. It's a very interesting architectural building.
Did we say where it is located?
It's at 11th and Red River.
Right. It's right down from Brackenridge Hospital.
Close to the Capitol.
Close to the Capitol, across from Waterloo Park in that area, right?
Beautiful setting. Waller Creek flows right through Symphony Square. And so we have a restaurant, we have an office, and a couple of other buildings that are used for meetings and gatherings.
Jane was talking about, you know, people on the board are always talking about money, right? And we want the people in Austin Faith Dialogue in the Austin community to know it costs money to do this. Now, I would imagine the same way. How did they go about getting the monies together to get Symphony Square and to build it and reconstruct and do all that type of thing?
I wasn't involved with the symphony back when all of that was done, but I know there was a lot of community support for that, and also sponsorships from area businesses, grants from historical commissions.
We were talking with Jane about the community involvement, and that's really where you come into this. Let the community know about the symphony. What are some of the things you'd want to say to the Austin community who are watching this program about the Austin Symphony, that it's a treasure, it's a resource of the community?
It is, and I think that people probably are not aware of the breadth of activity that we offer to the community. They know about our classical series concerts, our pops concerts, but our educational program is one of the best in the country. Not only do we do the Children's Day, but we also have a concert series in the spring for about 30,000 Austin area school children.
Yes.
We literally have 2 performances a day for 5 days where school buses come up, unload, the kids come in, listen to an hour concert, leave, and then another group of equal size comes in. That's 3,000 children twice in one morning hearing concerts.
That's amazing.
It's pretty amazing.
And it takes a lot of work.
It does. We have a very imaginative director of education, Diana Eblin, who pulls all this together. We're probably the only symphony in the country to use giant screen video, live video, with the orchestral performance to let children see close-ups of the musicians as they perform, and also to visually enhance what they're hearing, so it's visually reinforced.
Jane and I were also talking about the fact that it lifts the spiritual sense within the community and within individuals, and children, looking at the slides of those children as they touch. You called it the petting...
The instrument petting zoo.
I like that, that they can actually hands-on type of thing, that they can see and touch. Maybe they'll become someday part of the Austin Symphony Orchestra.
Well, it's wonderful to see a child's face light up. You know, some children that you have the sense are struggling with school, with the regular classroom experience, come to a performance or touch an instrument, and they literally come alive. And the arts can make a real difference in a child. They can be a hook for education.
Music makes a whole person, man,
yes,
and I think that's
right.
very important for us. If a community is going to be whole, the community has to have music within the community.
That's right.
Now, your job is also to relate to the community. People getting involved, they can come down to Symphony Square, they can come to the office. How many staff people do you have?
Well, we have about 15 on our staff there at Symphony Square, but of course that doesn't include the orchestra members, and there are about 90 members of the orchestra, and other people throughout the community, volunteers. Even the ushers at our performances are volunteers, so we couldn't do it without them. We have a very active Women's Symphony League which supports our educational programs. We have a Symphony Square committee that volunteers with all the events at Symphony Square. So it's quite a large,
it's a large organization, isn't it? And if people want to become interested in some of those expressions, for instance, ushering at the concerts, they contact, again, you, or how do they go about it?
They can call me at 476-6064, and I can connect them with our head usher or with any of these other groups that do volunteer work for the symphony.
Nan, you have not always lived in Austin, is that correct?
No, I haven't.
The reason I'm wondering is, other places of the country, what do you sense as being unique and special about maybe the Austin community, but also about the Austin Symphony Orchestra?
Well, I think that the exciting thing about the orchestra here is that it is part of the community, and we have sort of been singled out as an orchestra that gives back to the community in so many ways, and we stay connected with the community. I think some of the communities that are losing their orchestras are losing them because they don't feel connected in some way. I think for the size community that Austin is, roughly 500,000 people, that our orchestra and the organization that supports it really interacts with the community in some very unique and interesting ways.
The director of the Symphony Orchestra has been with the orchestra for 12 years, something like that.
About that.
Tell us about him. I think that might be interesting for the viewers to hear about him.
Well, we are very fortunate to have Maestro Sun Kwok in Austin. He formerly was with the Cleveland Symphony Orchestra and the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra as assistant conductor, and he's originally from South Korea, came to this country on a music scholarship, and rapidly became better and better known throughout the country for his conducting. He's also music director of the Sun River Music Festival in Oregon, and his distinction this year has been to go to St. Petersburg and Moscow to conduct orchestras there and record. He's recording the Nutcracker with the St. Petersburg Philharmonic, and they tell him in St. Petersburg that he conducts Tchaikovsky just like a Russian would, and they love that.
That's great.
And he's just coming back to conduct the July 4th concert from a tour of South Korea with the St. Petersburg Philharmonic.
So he'll come back for the 4th of July concert. Right. He'll be there with us today on that, and then he goes again?
He will probably be going back at some point this summer, and then we'll go to Oregon to conduct the Sun River Festival Orchestra.
What a schedule he has.
He's a very busy man.
Now, if you're going to tell people watching, we want you to come. We want you to come to the concert tonight, but we also want you to come and be a part of the Austin Symphony Orchestra and support them, be sponsors, patrons, attend the concerts. Do you have to be all, is it kind of casual? How does one go about attending
You can come any way that is comfortable for you. You can
Of course, the
choose
picnic, you come casual to that.
picnic,
That's right.
wear shorts, and wear something cool. It will be very hot.
Right.
For our regular concerts, some people dress very casually, some people dress very formally. It just depends on how you feel at the time. Some of our other events, like our Summer Music Festival at Symphony Square, where we have popular Austin entertainers like the Lounge Lizards and Tish Hinojosa. Those are kind of like our July 4th concert in terms of being very casual. You bring the family. If the children are old enough to enjoy an evening performance, we'd love to have them. So we have many different events to appeal to all kinds of tastes, whether you're laid-back Austin or want to dress up occasionally.
I think the Symphony is one of the great resources that we have in this community. And as we're celebrating the 4th of July weekend, I'm particularly happy that you, Nan, and Jane could be with us to share some things about the Symphony Orchestra and the gifts that the Symphony gives. Now, if people want to know more, they can contact you where?
At the Austin Symphony offices at Symphony Square, and the number is 476-6064.
And your word to the Austin community about this great resource would be to do what?
Get involved, become a subscriber. If you are not ready to make that leap yet, at least come to some of our performances and find out more about us and what wonderful music the Symphony provides.
And they can hear that music at 8:30 p.m. July 4th on Town Lake. And then the season starts when?
It starts in September. We have our first opening performance, September the 17th, which is a Friday evening, and followed by another concert on Sunday evening.
And Jane said you're going to have some tremendous artists coming in.
We have some very exciting artists. I think she mentioned Colin Jacobson, wonderful violinist, young.
15 years old.
15 years old. Probably the world's greatest solo clarinetist, Richard Stoltzman.
So what you're saying is that families and children would even enjoy, teenagers would come to those concerts.
We have many children at our concerts, and it's particularly exciting when they see someone like Colin Jacobson, who's very close to their own age.
Nan, thanks. You've been great.
Thank you.
It's been wonderful to have you. Our time has run out, but for Jane and Nan, for all of us, we're going to celebrate the 4th of July, and as President Adams said years ago, it needs to have music and bells and festivals, so happy 4th of July to you, and celebrate your independence as a citizen of this nation, and support the Austin Symphony Orchestra. Thanks for watching Austin Faith Dialogue, and peace and joy be yours.